All right, welcome to the Dr. Jimbo Love Show featuring Seth Matthew. Seth is going to try to make it up here today. He is pretty busy down here getting the bar opened. But we have Patrick, and Patrick is going to sit in for Seth and hopefully become a regular contributor to the show. Patrick, how are you this morning?
Good, how are you doing, Jim?
Good to have you. So Patrick, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? And all that kind of good stuff.
I'm originally from Albuquerque. We were Air Force family. I spent a lot of my time in my summers with my grandparents in New York. So I'm kind of a fake New Yorker, if you will, but I was born and raised in Albuquerque. I cheer for all New York sports teams. And then for college, I am a Notre Dame fan. My mother named me Patrick Joseph, so we really had no choice at birth but to root for the Irish.
Wow. Now, does that make you an Irish, or is what your last name? We're not going to say it on the air, but you are.
Mostly Polish, actually. My grandparents
Okay.
on my father's side are from Poland and came over and settled in New York on the east end of Long Island. And that's where I used to spend my summers. My parents would get a little break from my brother and I. And then I lived out in New York for 6 to 7 years before I moved out west. I was in Las Vegas for about a year, back home for a couple of years, and then in Denver since 2019 now.
Excellent. And what do you do for a living?
I work for the airlines.
Excellent. So watch out. Don't worry, Patrick's not going to be flying you at any point in time, but he is a very integral part of the flight team. So excellent. Well, we love to have you. Now, Patrick's his forte is horse racing, and we're going to do a segment today on the Breeders' Cup, which is going on right now. If you like horse racing, this is the World Championship of all 14 divisions of horse racing.
Yeah, the easiest way to explain to people, since horse racing isn't in everybody's household like it is football, if you will, it's the Super Bowl of horse racing. It's a 2-day event. They're from all over the world, and every purse is $1 million or above. There are a couple races in the world that have a little bit richer purses, one in Dubai. They also do one in Gulfstream that is pretty lucrative here at the beginning of January. But this is a big event. Every race is $1 million, and it's of all ages of horses, turf, dirt, all different styles, short races, long races, and it's currently going on. This is day 2 now.
Excellent. And we just watched a race complete just now, and we're going to get some more in-depth stuff. But we're going to start off today. First thing we want to say is we are here at Brothers Bar and Grill in the shops of Northfield. Patrick and I are up here in the mezzanine section, hopefully to be joined by Seth here shortly. Remember, folks, come on down to Brothers Bar and Grill. We'll have all the different games on. You'll see Patrick and I will be watching the horse racing along with some other people that come in. We have a couple other horse racing fans that will probably come in today, and people are always interested. But any kind of sporting event that you want, we will get on the air for you here at Brothers. So today's show, basically what we're going to do is we're going to start off talking a little bit about the AP Top 25 like we always do. We're going to talk a little bit more and then go into some of our featured games for the NCAA football. We've got some big ones on. We have a 1 versus 2, or the way you look at it, if you look at the rankings, the AP rankings has Georgia number 1. The college football playoff rankings has Tennessee at number 1. So you can actually look at this as a 1 versus 1 if you really want to.
It is.
It's going to be a big game. Are you excited about that game?
I believe it's the 8th time in SEC history where they have 2 number 1s essentially, or the top 2 in the nation facing off against each other. I think Georgia fans are looking forward to it because the line keeps going towards Georgia's way. Okay,
interesting. Yeah, and then Pat's into the betting scene, so we're going to get some really good insights on his pick. So we'll figure out the lines, the over and unders, and what are some great bets. Also, some of the way the lines are moving, which is what, again, Patrick just talked about. We'll talk about college hockey. Cornell played Princeton. St. Cloud State is in town playing DU. And also, we also like North Dakota. Matt comes in and talks to us quite a bit about hockey. He's a contributor, and that is his alumni program. They played Nebraska, Omaha, and we'll talk about that. We'll have some NFL games. We have about 4 we're going to feature. Bills, Jets comes to mind. Titans, Chiefs, 2 of probably the best games on the slate for Sunday. And then we're going to go in and talk a little bit of Breeders' Cup. And at the end, we're going to talk women's or girls, high school girls cross country. And we've had some really great runners from Niawat, and also we have a girl who set a record in the 5A championship, the lowest time ever, 16:59. She broke 17. First girl in Colorado history to do that. So we'll talk a little bit about that.
When was the last time you ran that far?
Yeah, probably high school. I don't run now unless somebody's chasing me. All right, well, let's just go kind of and talk a little bit about what happened last week. We've got basically Georgia again beat Florida 42-20. TCU is rolling along. They are ranked 7th, and they beat West Virginia 41-31. The big game last week that I was watching, and we're going to talk more about this, especially when we talk about the Syracuse-Pitt game. Patrick was at the Syracuse-Notre Dame game in the Dome. I can't wait to hear more details about it. That's a little teaser for you guys. You're just going to have to keep watching to listen to how it actually was in the Dome. Louisville beat Wake Forest last week 48-21. Wake Forest, remember, was as high as 10. They took a beating in the polls, but they're still ranked 20th. Missouri, South Carolina, a big disappointment for Gamecock fans, me, myself. South Carolina was rolling along really well, beat Kentucky, beat Texas A&M, had a home game against Mizzou and just laid an egg. Missouri won 23-10. But that just kind of gives you a little bit of what happened last week, some of the featured games. But let's move into our top 25. And really, there's no change at all in 1 versus 7. We have UGA, Tennessee, Ohio State, Michigan, Clemson, Bama's at 6, and TCU is at 7. What do you think about that? Does that feel like it's your top 7 teams?
Yeah, I think right now you're going to see maybe a little bit of movement. I don't think Michigan, the outside teams, the 4, 5, 6s are kind of all staying steady. I think your Ohio State, your Tennessee, your Georgia are going to be tough. I do see some of the games on the program today where I see some of these underdogs covering, though, against some of these top teams. So, again, I'm more of into the betting as well as the spreads, so get to hear a little bit about that. Ohio State is a big favorite today at Northwestern. I believe Northwestern is 1-7.
Right.
But they are on the road there. I was able to see Ohio State opening week. Again, Notre Dame fan, so I've seen 3 games this year. One of them was opening day at the Horseshoe. Good program.
How'd that work out?
106,000 people. It was definitely a bucket list item. It was a lot of people. It was fun. We had a great section. We were in mostly Ohio State section up there, but some Notre Dame fans. Great game for the first half, and the Irish were up at half, and then the Ohio State just kind of wore them down. And talk about it later, Notre Dame just got a little quarterback problem this year. So
yeah, they lost their quarterback right in the second game of the season.
Yeah, essentially the second game against Marshall, where that was a terrible loss, and they've been running with the backup Payne, and last week was not his forte of a good game, if you will. I just wish they ran the ball the entire game as they were dominating the offensive line, but they got a big test ahead here with Clemson. Oddly enough, though, for a number 4 team in the nation going into Notre Dame, where I don't feel as even a fan they're a bad quarterback, Notre Dame only showing 3.5, 4-point underdogs at home. So kind of telling you about where Clemson is. Quarterback's been struggling. They did put in the backup quarterback for Clemson against Syracuse. They were down.
Don't give it all away, because we're going to feature Clemson and Notre Dame in just a second.
I better save some for the.
Gotta save some
for the later here.
No worries. I love it, though. I love it.
I think the top 10 is pretty strong. You'll see a little movement on the outsides. I think the tops all be there, and whoever loses tonight, Tennessee, Georgia, obviously you're not going to punish them because they're the top of the SEC.
Yeah, they're calling that on College Game Day today an elimination game, because basically, if you lose this game, whoever loses this game in the SEC East will not be able to get to the SEC championship, which of course we presume, if Bama beats LSU today, it'll be Bama. You need to have that extra game if you really want to make the college, the playoff of the top 4 teams.
Well, 2 of the games on the slate I think are going to be important into what they're talking about changing the college football playoff format. They want to expand it and make it more. And the Alabama-LSU game, the Tennessee-Georgia game are going to be big factors into that, because as he said, if Tennessee loses, then they could be.
Well, they're going to expand to 12.
Yeah.
They're definitely expanding to 12. So we just have to wait. And I believe that's the 2025 season or 2026. I'm not sure. But we'll check on that and see. Just continuing with the top 25, we have Oregon 7-1. Remember, they lost that first game of the season to Georgia. They've won every single game since, including beating a tough UCLA a couple weeks back. They are 7-1 at 8. USC has squeaked into the 9th position. UCLA, even with the loss to Oregon, is at 10. Ole Miss has one loss team at 11. Utah, again, I say this every week, I don't understand why they're the leading 2-loss team and they're ranked as high as they are. What are your feelings on Utah?
I think the Pac-12 is just so up and down. I guess we'll go into a little bit later about the game last night, but you never really know what you're going to get out of the Pac-12. Some days you're going to get blowouts, some days you're going to get big efforts. Oregon, I think, is a good team. They are big favorites today at Colorado, here in town, up in Boulder, I guess I should
31-point favorite.
Yeah, 31.5, and they,
31.5, huh?
the Buffs are not good this year, but I think Oregon is good. You got the coach that came in there from Miami.
Okay.
And has turned that program around really fast. And one of our good friends is a big-time Duck fan, so we're always kind of leaning with the Ducks, at least I am, for the Pac-12.
Yeah, for those of you out there that like all the different uniforms and stuff like that, like my wife loves all the different uniforms. She loves the color green, so she loves Oregon, and she likes
should
to
be an
see
Irish fan.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think she hates the Irish, but for some reason the Ducks just intrigue her because of the uniform changes. So Utah, I feel like Utah is probably the worst number 12 team in the country. I really think they should be somewhere down around 17 or 18. A lot of this, I wonder how much, with the pollsters, sometimes it's politics. They've got to keep this Power 5 conference relevant in the hunt for the college football playoff Final Four. All right, K-State is number 13, coming in at 6-2. Illinois is putting together one heck of a season for the ages for them. They are 7-1 and they come in at 14. LSU, as we said, is going to be facing a tough Bama later today. They are in at 15. Penn State's hanging tough, 6-2 at 16. UNC 7-1 at 17. Oklahoma State took a beating last week and dropped to 18. Tulane, who beat Kansas State, remember earlier, 7-1. They are at 19. And Wake Forest, who lost last week in a tough game to Louisville, is now down to 20th. NC State's 21, number 22 is where my Syracuse landed after such a tough loss to Notre Dame last week.
Could be in trouble this week too.
And we will talk about that too, yeah, definitely, when we're talking about Pitt later on today. That's one of our featured games. The Liberty Flames, folks. Liberty Flames are in the top 25, probably the first time in their school history, and they have a tough game today against Arkansas. Arkansas, as you guys saw earlier, was a top 10 team. They're 5-3, but Liberty has everything that they have to play a perfect game to end up beating that game.
Yeah, they have been in the top 25, and you're seeing that conference get better and better every year. It's just kind of about sticking around and then winning the big games, and eventually maybe you'll see one of these teams out of these lower conferences, almost like basketball. Eventually, when the playoffs expand to 12, maybe you'll see one get in there.
Make a run.
I don't know, but they're getting better.
It's tough to make it with their strength of schedule. It's almost impossible. And with this expansion to 12 teams, I think we're going to see a much more uniform kind of playoff system where we're going to find out if the SEC schools and the Big 12 schools can compete against some of these really good programs in the lower league. I mean, we saw earlier this year where the Sun Belt Conference had 3 upsets in 1 week.
Yeah,
remember
Marshall
that?
against Notre Dame was one.
Yep.
And,
App State.
App State, and the other one was
Georgia Southern
against
the hard Nebraska team. Matter of fact, got Scott Frost fired. That game did. So
I think some other things might have led to that. But
yeah, we talked about that too.
Not a very good time in Nebraska football history.
No, and we talked about that a little bit. I had an insider give me some information about Scott Frost and playing at the golf simulator and drinking beer and banging cheerleaders. Not good. Oregon State comes in at 24, and then lastly is University of Central Florida at 25. So, interesting. This brings us to the game that you watched a lot yesterday, and Pat was here at Brothers Bar and Grill last night and got a chance to sit and watch Oregon State number 24 at Washington. Oregon State is 6-3, Washington 7-2. Kind of tipped our hat a little bit because we had a 24-21 victory. Washington ended up beating Oregon State.
Yeah, Huskies did not get off to a good start, and the score actually probably doesn't resemble about how lopsided the game was offensively. Huskies quarterback was, I believe, his number one passing, that's per yards in the nation.
Penix.
Penix, and they did not get off to the best start. Oregon State got a pick six before half. That's only about 2 minutes left. They also had a blocked punt, which they were not able to capitalize off. It was 4th and 3. Not really sure why they didn't kick the field goal, but they went for a 4th and 3 in the red zone and were not able to capitalize. They stopped. They ran the ball hard, Oregon State did. They played decent defense, but the problem was they just couldn't get off the field on third downs. The first scoring drive, I believe it was, the Huskies started in their own end, deep in their own end, and it was a 3rd and 16, first down, 3rd and 10, first down. They had a 4th and 10 around Oregon State's 40, and another first down, and that was just kind of a sign for things to come. They did drive the ball down at the end of the game. Oregon State had to give the ball back. It was a windy game, and it was actually a weird game. The power went out about 12 minutes into the fourth quarter.
Wow.
So they actually took a kind of a lengthy delay, enough to where the coaches had to put the teams out and kind of do warm-ups like you'd see at the start of the game,
Wow.
or calisthenics, if you will.
Yep.
But they gave the ball back, and you almost knew they had another third down chance to get them off the field, and they couldn't do it. And Washington was going for a touchdown till the bitter end. They finally lined up with no time left, pretty much an extra point, and that was the game.
Oh, wow. Well, the way the game kind of looked on paper with us is that it was 14-7 at half, and Oregon State was held scoreless in the fourth quarter. Washington's quarterback, Penix Jr., was 30 for 52, 298 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. The running back, Davis, had 55 yards. Wide receiver, Odinson and Polk both had 7 receptions for 102 and 39 yards, respectively. Oregon State's Gulbranson, the quarterback, was 12 for 19, 87 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Matter of fact, they had only 92 yards passing throughout the entire game. Martinez, the running back, did pretty well. He had 107 yards, and Harrison had 5 receptions for a total of 15 yards.
They ran the ball. That was their form of offense. They did have a couple good plays early on in the game in terms of the passing game, but they were relying mostly on the run, and every time he did drop back to pass, he was running for his life. He got out of a couple tough hits, and then he took 2 big ones at least. So they were putting some pressure on them, and it was kind of the opposite. They were getting the pressure on their quarterback, and when Penix dropped back for Washington, there was 0 pressure. He had all day to throw. They're almost playing a zone, a 2 cover, and he could dunk it under, and then he was hitting every corner. They just could not stop the passing game.
Interesting. Well,
Which is weird because the score was so close. But again, block punt, you got the pick six at the end of the half, and that kind of made the score look a little different. And a rivalry game, they definitely kind of got into it after the game. They had to be separated when the clock hit 0, almost like Michigan and Michigan State last week. So there was a little sauce in there. Close game, 3 points, and
that's unfortunate too. You just mentioned that Michigan State-Michigan incident. 8 players from Michigan State have been kicked off the team permanently because of the incident in the tunnel. For those of you who didn't realize, one of the Michigan players was trying to come out at halftime, and 6 Michigan State players, and it looks like a total of 8 were involved in the melee. Unfortunately, they talked about it a little bit on College Game Day. Des Howard did a really nice job talking about it, and there were, looking at the tape, there were many officials and even state policemen that were there that could have broken up this fight. And one of the Michigan's head of operation, Michigan State, actually ran to the locker room where if he could have stepped in, maybe instead of 8 guys getting suspended, maybe only 3 or 4 would have been suspended.
Yeah, and if you're not familiar with going into there, some of these stadiums have changed because of these problems, but they all go in the same tunnel. The teams at halftime and at the end of the game, they go down the same area, but they usually separate them. And what happened was a couple of the Michigan players came into the tunnel when the Michigan State team was exiting. They were kind of waiting and celebrating, and it turned into what you could look all over online. Was a little bit of a melee in the tunnel, and looks like some people kicked off some.
It's tough
hospital charges, and
because these guys are scholarship players. And are they going to lose their scholarships? It can really change these kids' life and their trajectory of life. I hate to see that. Remember, we are at Brothers Bar and Grill at the Shops of Northfield. We are up here in the mezzanine section. Patrick, this is Patrick's first time up here. What do you think of this? I mean, there's a pretty good sized bar up here. It's got a nice view down, to the bar and everything else.
Yeah, this is our neighborhood area. I come in here with a good friend of mine often, and then when I have company in town, my brother was just in town, stopped in to watch a couple of the games. I've never been up here, so it's a different sight and scene from up here. This is kind of where they do the private parties as well as when they're super busy. And if you look out the window, we're in the shops down here, so you can also come get your sports, your beers in. But if you look down here, they're already setting up. I think they're doing another little shopping on the streets because they've blocked off just the little main road that kind of comes in and correlates to all the shopping area. So there'll be some booths or something set up today for some shopping.
Absolutely. So come on down, folks. Like I said, if you want to watch a game, any game you want to watch, they've got every single sports package available here. So just like Patrick is here today, he's going to be watching some college football, but he's here for the Breeders' Cup. He will have a TV that's dedicated to him personally. Okay, yeah, tell us a little bit about what is that, your shirt there and the Breeders' Cup. We'll just kind of talk a little bit about that.
Look at it. It's got the logo, and this year, 2022, they do move the tracks every year for the Breeders' Cup. It's not hosted in one area. Again, like the Super Bowl, kind of moves around. For the 4 years prior, it was hosted in California at Santa Anita and Del Mar. This year, it'll be at Keelan, which is kind of like the breeding grounds for horse racing in Louisville. They have Churchill and Keelan. Smaller track, but more of the horse breeding grounds down there. And I was fortunate enough, I had Terry Finley is the CEO for West Point Thoroughbreds. I was fortunate enough to have him and his wife on one of my flights. Happened to get talking or whatever, and Terry sent me this, and this is a brand new edition of this year. It's my first time wearing it. I was saving it for this day. And so it just happened to work out on the show, and it's on the Saturday as we have the races over here over our shoulder.
Right on. So tell us a little bit about that gentleman that sent you this. Now, what does he do?
Terry Finley is the owner and CEO of West Point Thoroughbreds.
West Point Thoroughbreds.
West Point Thoroughbreds.
Gotcha.
So he was, if you look up his bio online, he was at West Point. And this is his passion. You kind of read into it. His family doesn't seem to be into it. This is his bread and passion. But West Point Thoroughbreds is one of the top breeders. And if you ever look at a racing forum, if you're not into racing, but you see those people reading the newspapers and forums, it'll always tell you who the breeders are, who the owners are, the jockeys, etc. So when you look on there, you see West Point Thoroughbreds. You'll think of this individual as he is the CEO. Him and his wife are at the top, and they have obviously a lot of people under them that makes the barn work.
Well, you must have left a pretty good impression on him if he sent you this nice little gear.
I think they're trying to keep horse racing, or trying to get horse racing into the younger crowd. You'll see it during the Triple Crown because there's a lot of fun things to do, as well as you see a lot of young people partying. But when it comes to horse playing, it's still more of an older generation thing. So I think to have somebody randomly ran into, especially that I was working that day, he was on his way to the Eclipse Awards, which was being held in Santa Anita that day. So he was he was on the docket to possibly win a couple awards. So that kind of tells you about where his barn and how they're doing things over there, and some of his top horses that are always entered into some of these big races.
Let's stop for 1 second. You got a race ending right here, right now. Do you know who you've got in this race?
No, so this is at Aqueduct. Aqueduct is in Queens. So we're kind of watching the simulcast. Today it'll be broadcasted. So NBC Sports used to do all the horse racing. NBC Sports no longer exists, so they're using USA Network. So they use USA Network up till a certain time today, and then NBC will take over the coverage. So for people who don't have cable, NBC will be doing the coverage for all the big races as we get closer and closer. So as the day goes on, the purses kind of get a little bigger, and then they cap off today with the Breeders' Cup Classic. And that'll be highlighted by Flightline, which is 3 to 5 in the morning line. So that's saying that it's a big favorite. And the other horses, if you follow any part of the Triple Crown, you probably recognize a few of those horses that are in that race.
Cool. And we'll talk a little bit more about Breeders' Cup here. We got a little ahead of ourselves, but that's wonderful. Let's talk a little bit about our featured games today. We've got, of course, the Tennessee-Georgia game. Bama is going to be playing LSU, Wake Forest, NC State, Syracuse versus Pittsburgh, and of course, lastly, Clemson versus Patrick's Notre Dame. So let's start off with the biggest game on the slate today, and we'll talk a little bit about Georgia and Tennessee. And what's interesting is, first of all, of course, College Game Day was in Georgia today, in Athens. Again, as we mentioned earlier, you've got the AP poll that has Georgia number 1 and the college football playoff ranking system that has Tennessee as number 1. So this really is, in a sense, an elimination game. And we talked a little bit about why it's an elimination game earlier. Again, the winner of this game most likely will face Alabama in the SEC championship, and they need that extra game in order to help them get and qualify for the top 4 playoff spots.
Yeah, I mean, it looks that
maybe.
way.
We'll
looks
see.
that way. You have Alabama today, 13.5-point favorites, but they're going to LSU, and I don't think that's going to be a picnic game. And I think if you watched Alabama, they're always going to be a strong program. This year just hasn't looked like their year. I'm looking at a lot of these games at the top 25. Again, I like to throw the wagers down. I like a lot of these underdogs today to cover the spreads. Okay. Maybe not win the game outright. 13.5's a lot, but Alabama's got to go to LSU. Tennessee's going to Georgia. Athens, Georgia is going to be nuts today.
Yep.
Nuts. So you're going to have defense and a quarterback who controls the game versus an offense with a wide receiver that is well and beyond touchdown receptions of anybody else in college football this year.
So interestingly, last week I was just curious. So Tennessee was playing, and I timed how quickly they run plays, and basically in real time, how many seconds come off the clock. The average, and I timed probably, I think 13 to 14 plays. The average was 16.4 seconds per play. That means from the time that the the whistle is blown to the time that they snap it is about 16 seconds. That is unbelievable. So Josh Heupel has got an offense that is just almost impossible to stop. Herndon Hooker is just, he's everybody's talking about him for being the Heisman Trophy. He's probably the number 1, right now in the number 1 position. Georgia, unfortunately, is missing a linebacker, Nolan Smith. He's out for the season. Kirby Smart describes that loss as irreplaceable. So one
Captain
thing,
of the defense.
Exactly, and it's a horrible loss for Georgia. The line on this game is -9 when I saw it this morning,
and it's still moving.
Is it still moving?
Yeah, it started about. It's been about 8 all week. Went to 8.5 kind of late last night into 9. Woke up today. Depends on who you're looking at. Here in Colorado, you can do the online gambling, FanDuel, DraftKings, etc. FanDuel had it at 9.5, and so I don't know. I don't know if the Georgia fans are getting money or if people just think defense beats offense, but it'll be interesting. They run those quick plays, but the thing is if Georgia starts stopping them or they take big losses, then what's going to happen to that offense? You're not going to be going 16 seconds. You're going to be back. You're going to have to change your format. So maybe that's what people are banking on. Personally, I think 9.5 is too many.
I do too.
I have a lot of buddies who are going with Georgia. I think 9.5 is too many. I think you're going to see a closer game, but some people think maybe if they could get a couple turnovers, then things will get a little out of hand and the home crowd will get raw on their pom-poms and it'll be a blowout. So we'll see. But almost double digits for top 2 teams in the nation.
Crazy, huh?
Kind of a lot.
Yeah, and for that reason, I'm going with Ohio State, UGA. I'm going with UGA and the points to cover. I don't think UGA is going to be good enough to win, but I do think that they will cover. I think Tennessee's going to win the ball game, though, just unless something just gets blown up where there's a massive amount of turnovers on one of the 2 teams.
Well, if you're taking Tennessee, then you can't have UGA to win and win the cover. So you're going with the dogs or me.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying I think, now I can't cover that as a bet.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that I think Tennessee's going to win by less than 9.5 points.
Okay.
That's what I'm kind of saying. So, okay, well, let's move on. And we kind of alluded a little bit. The next game is Alabama number 6 versus number 15 LSU in Baton Rouge. LSU, it's going to be a real tough game. LSU's only losses were to Florida State and Tennessee. And Chip Kelly, who Patrick probably has a few things he wants to talk about. Chip Kelly.
Brian. Chip was UCLA. Brian Kelly was. He's the one who took the money, who went down to LSU. So this is first year down
Kelly.
there.
My bad.
Not his program, not his kids, but he left Notre Dame as the most winning coach, and things are going pretty much the same down there, it looks like.
Yeah, well, they're starting to gel a little bit, is what they're saying on College Game Day. Alabama owns LSU in Baton Rouge. They are 29 with 9 losses and 2 ties. Alabama has won the last 5 straight, but then again, like we said, we've got Brian Kelly. We've got a new program here in LSU, and LSU really, a lot of people are saying, this is going to be one of a big test for Bama. Bryce Young, of course, is the best player in the country. He may not get the Heisman because you remember he won the Heisman Trophy last year, but we're going to see Bryce Young. Will LSU be able to stop him? I don't know. What else are your feelings? And do you think whether or not LSU can cover? What is the line in this game?
13.5 is what I had it at last night. I didn't, before we came this morning, I did not get through everything to see if it had been shifted money. This game's a little bit later in the afternoon, so usually the games kind of tend to shift when the morning games go, and then you get the 1:30 slate and the 5 o'clock and so on. 13.5 is what it's at. I like LSU. You go down to any of these places, this is a 6-10, so we're talking about a 1-2, 1-3, whatever you want to talk about. This is 6-10, and you go down to LSU and crazy things happen, and I just don't think Bama's as good. They could easily put up the usual 21-point spreads, cover spreads on them, but Coach Kelly's a good team. Again, this isn't really his recruiting class. He just got there, so he's taken over what was left with him. Similar to what he left Notre Dame, with kind of without a quarterback right now type of deal. But LSU, I do like the 13.5 to cover. As always, I don't know if I would say money line. If you hit a money line on that, that would be pretty good. But I like the dogs today. I like LSU there, and I like Tennessee. So we're talking 13.5 and then 9.5 in our last game.
So you think LSU is going to win outright?
No.
You just think they're going to cover?
Yeah, so 13.5. So I do think Bama will come in there. It's hard to go against them, but in terms of a betting perspective, I'm not going to put all my money for LSU to win the game. You'll get good odds, but if you're giving me 13, that's almost 2 touchdowns. They'll probably go closer off to 2 touchdowns unless LSU people are getting their money in here early this morning.
Right.
Yeah, the point spreads, like the last game we were kind of talking about. So Tennessee is plus 9.5. So Tennessee can lose the game by 9 or less, and they will cover that spread.
Sure.
And then in this game, 13.5, probably go off closer to 2 touchdowns. And so you can lose by 10, keep it close.
Right.
It'll just be interesting to see how Alabama kids come out and deal with the environment, because it may be just as loud in LSU to start this game as it will be in Athens, Georgia for that game.
Absolutely. I'm going to go with LSU in the points. I don't think LSU will win the game. I just think that they will cover. So we'll wait and see when we come to next week whether Patrick and I are close to being correct. And I didn't get Seth's picks today because normally Seth is pretty good with his picks, but We'll find out if he's able to make it up here. We'll get real quick his picks as well, so we can
We'll put him on the spot.
That's right. Number 3 game is number 20, Wake Forest versus number 21, NC State. Wake lost to Louisville last week, 48-21, and dropped from the top 10. First time I've seen Wake Forest in the top 10 in many, many years. The reason is because they had 8 total turnovers, 6 turnovers being in the third period. So you cannot win when you turn the ball over 8 times. I'm sorry. I don't care if you're playing the Sisters of the Poor. If you give the ball up that much, you're just not going to have it. Now, remember, NC State has lost their starting quarterback. They lost him before the Syracuse game. And, of course, we know that NC State lost to Syracuse 24-9. What are your feelings on this game?
You know, they're -3 at home. I think Wake was due for a loss in a betting perspective. We got -3 Wake Forest, so road favorite. That is 2 road favorites in a row, a slight road favorite. Home crowd's always tough. I don't really want to go with NC State. The quarterback issue is an issue. The other one is getting a little better. I think Wake was due for one, but I don't see them turning the ball over that amount of times.
No, they won't. They will never do that again. I can guarantee it.
So I'll take Wake with the win, and I'll go slightly on the -3. That is not one of my favorite games of the week. I think it will be a close game, or if the turnovers happen, it could be another blowout. But we'll see, because they did get blown out of the water last week, and a couple people on game day kind of were pointing towards that they were due for a rough week, and it was.
No. Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to go with Wake Forest myself. I think that they're a better team. I think what happened last week stung them. I think they've been thinking about it all week. They're going to come out mean, mad, and angry, which is a good combination. Now, granted, they are traveling to Raleigh for this game, so that gives NC State a little bit of an advantage. But you know what? Wake Forest is very, very close. I think you'll see that Wake Forest fans will travel extremely well. There'll be plenty of them in the stadium today. So, excellent. Let's move on to Syracuse Pitt. And you have Syracuse, who started out 6-0 and now are 6-2, losing to Clemson and Notre Dame. Pitt is 4-4. Again, we talked a little bit about the game last week. Pat was at the Dome. He saw it. Now, you were telling me a little bit. What did you see as far as the number of Syracuse fans versus the number of Notre Dame fans in the Dome last week?
Well, we had been tailgating, so I saw maybe like 60 Syracuse, 40, but that probably was tailgating. When we all talked about it afterwards, there was probably about 70% Syracuse fans, and there was about 30% Irish fans. Notre Dame travels. I've been to 3 games this year. Notre Dame people are traveling. That's just how it always is. But it's really not that far if you live in the South Bend area or anywhere around that area in the north to drive up to Syracuse, which I didn't realize we were talking about it after the game with our group. My brother went to college outside of Syracuse, played college hockey up there, and we have a big contingent of friends, a big group text that goes on all over there, and they have season tickets for both the basketball and the football. So it's been a great year for the football. Fortunately, they're kind of in a downward spiral. I guess for the game-wise, 2 things. One, the Notre Dame offensive line was so much bigger than their defensive line. They looked like Menemuc's boys in terms of that. 2, their quarterback left the game hurt, and I was sending a text out to the boys yesterday. I know one of their defensive players, I believe, tore his ACL. The quarterback left hurt. I don't know if he's playing this week. I haven't read into it enough, or if he's a game-time decision.
Schrader?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to start with Schrader. Well, it's a game-time decision.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you...
He was hobbling a little bit after Clemson. He played the first half. They finally decided to take him out. He took a pretty big hit when I watched the replay of the game when I finally got home back to Denver. The backup didn't look too bad again.
No, Carlos Del Rio Wilson. He's a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, Tucker's the freshman running back.
Big kid.
That they didn't use enough against Notre Dame. I don't think Syracuse ever established a running game against Notre Dame, and it really hurt them.
No, and then to start the game, kind of like we were talking about in the Oregon State game, the first play of the game was a pick 6 right into we had close to the end zone seats. First toss, first play of the game was right to Notre Dame for 6, so that wasn't the best start. The game got really close when it felt like it was so much further away because Notre Dame was controlling the ball and the offensive line. The problem with Notre Dame is the quarterback situation. They lost their was going to be their starter, and I don't know how much we could say how good he was a dual threat. Can't hurt. I guess you can't hate on the kid because he only really had 2 games to prove himself as a starter. The backup is Payne. He could not hit a throw to save his life. Even the Syracuse fans are going, why are they throwing the ball? Because you could run it at 6 to 7 yards a clip. But then in the fourth quarter, when it did get close again, a couple big plays led to kind of a lopsided final score. Fun game though, great crowd. It was an early game, so you had to go out and do the tailgate early. It was a 12 o'clock game out on the East Coast.
We had it on here at 10 o'clock at
10
Brothers.
o'clock, so yeah.
But first big sellout of the Dome since 1998. So how loud was it?
When they were getting it close, and then they got it. Well, they had it close early on. It was loud early. That kind of took the air out of the Dome. The first play of the game, pick 6, but they kept rallying. And then when they got it back within 7, it was definitely getting loud in the Dome. But Syracuse, upstate folks know their sports. It's New York. They know their sports. They love their sports. Usually it's for basketball in that program, though. So this has kind of been the first year they're able to get the football going. Unfortunately, they took a tough loss to Clemson. They were up. They changed the quarterback at Clemson. Next thing you know, they take a tough loss there, and then they have to play Notre Dame, and now they're going on the road to Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And talking to the boys who know their stuff up there, season ticket holders, they are a little nervous because they don't play so well there in Pittsburgh. And in fact, the line...
Former Heinz Field.
Yeah, in fact, the line was Syracuse is 4-point underdogs going on the road. So
okay. I had 3.5, but
3.5.
It's changed?
It's slightly changed.
Okay.
Again, a half a point. It depends what sites you're getting it on and whatnot.
Do you have the over/under for this one at all?
I do not.
No worries.
Not big in the over/unders. It's not my thing. A lot of people ask me about them if I do get a feel. Like the only game I did have a feel on this morning was the Air Force Academy Army game. And those usually go under. One of my good friends liked the under, and I was looking at it, I liked over. Well, of course, I looked in the second quarter before I got here, and there was 3 points on the board.
Yep. And that's good that he brought that up. Patrick brought that up. Air Force is playing against Army for the Commander Trophy right down the road from us here, just down at Air Force Academy. And we had the game on. Well, we had to supersede it because we're watching the Breeders' Cup. But as Patrick said, in
kind
the
of got a
second
dual
quarter,
threat going on.
Yeah. In the second quarter, 3-0 Air Force. So we'll be watching that. We'll try to get a score update. We'll yell down to Seth here before the end so we can find out, because I know he's got the game on down there. So, all right. Well, this brings us to our last featured game for the college football, and that is, of course, undefeated Clemson, number 5, versus 5-3 Notre Dame. The game is in South Bend. It plays tonight. The game it kicks off at 5:30 Mountain Standard Time. That's 7:30 Eastern Time. So go ahead, Patrick. Tell us all about what you think. I know that the line was -4 Clemson, and the over/under was 44 points. Tell us what you think.
It's been right about there, 3.5, 4 points. Kind of weird the 4th team in the country is going against a team, in my opinion, that doesn't have a quarterback. The problem is they've had their own issues at quarterback. The starter will remain the starter according to the coach. Clemson came in there last time and took a loss. That was, I guess, they only had the student section there. That was during COVID, student section mask only days. And that was a big win. And the Irish did get them that day. As a Notre Dame fan, the offensive line's fine. You got the best tight end in the nation. The defense is playing a little bit better. Like we talked earlier, Georgia has the linebacker out. Well, Notre Dame's kind of got their heart and soul. Captain has been out. He's been a walking boot. So that hurts. But what are you going to get out of the quarterback play? I hope last week was a lesson of control the ball, run the ball for Notre Dame, and hopefully Payne can just make a couple throws. If he doesn't, then they're not going to be able to stay in the game, and that's just my personal opinion. Watching all the games, being that I've been to 3 this year in person and seen them in person. But if they can control the ball, and they need a couple turnovers, and the Clemson quarterback has been getting punished, and he got sad against Syracuse because he was turning the ball over, and They thought he was going to be the replacement for, I call him Sunshine, but he is the Jaguars quarterback now. And
Trevor Lawrence.
it has not been.
No.
Trevor Lawrence, when they were down there, it was a smooth system, and since he's been in, it just hasn't been the same offense. So we'll see.
He has a very short leash today, I believe.
Yeah.
So if you see him struggling, you could see them put in the second string quarterback for Clemson, who did a really nice job.
Fabulous job.
So it's not like they're losing a lot right there.
Clemson still has plenty of recruits sitting right behind them. So it'll be interesting. So same at Notre Dame. So, new coach in there. These aren't his guys. This is what Brian Kelly left him with. I've always said Brian Kelly left him knowing that he had no quarterback set up for the next 2 years, and then LSU offers him all this money, of course. But he's supposed to have some of the best recruiting classes coming out. Notre Dame, actually, they get a lot of the 4 stars, not maybe so much the 5 stars the SEC gets, but their quarterback coming in next year, the freshman, is supposed to be the 5 star. He's supposed to be one of the real deals. So hopefully that can transition to some. But today you got number 4 going into Notre Dame, and that fan base is going to be out. It's
they're 5 if you look at the AP.
Yep.
So
5:30 game. Everybody's gonna have plenty of time to wake up and do tailgating. I think it'll be a loud game. But yeah, a couple turnovers and got to control the ball, or else Clemson could.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think that Clemson wins by more than 4. I think they cover, and I think you're going to see. I'm interested to see, and again, you're a Notre Dame fan. I hate to say that, but I really don't think they have the firepower to be able to beat Clemson, even though they'll be at home. So my pick is going to go with Clemson covering. What's your pick? Are you going to go with Notre Dame? Are you laying money on them?
I would probably not bet this game, but I'll never go against my guys at 3.5. If the quarterback can make a couple plays, then you could have a chance for the upset. But it is interesting, the soft line. So it's one of those that makes you wonder. When you look at it originally, I think a normal person, especially the Notre Dame haters, they're one of the Cowboys, the Yankees, they get into that category of hating. I think people like that are licking their chops for Clemson right now. I think they're licking their chops. Yeah. It'll just be if the quarterback can. He has to play better last week. It couldn't have gotten any worse last week for him. Got to make a couple throws. The defense has to make a couple turnovers or stands. And it'll be interesting to see what the quarterback play for Clemson is. Give me the 3.5. That's the homer bet, though. That's the home team.
Yep. Bet. So at least he's spinning. He's admitting he's going with his heart and not with his head, and that's okay. I try to eliminate that as best I can, but I have to admit that there's been times where I've bet on Syracuse and South Carolina because my heart loves them so much. All right, well, we're running a little bit long today, so we may eliminate some of the NFL games. But let's talk real quick about college hockey. And our first game that we're going to feature is North Dakota State, or University of North Dakota, versus Nebraska Omaha. And Matt is one of our contributors. He tells us a little bit about what's going on with the NCHC. He kind of came in yesterday. I spoke to him briefly, and he felt like Notre Dame was going to not Notre Dame, but North Dakota was just going to run all over him. And it really was. If you look at the way this breaks down, North Dakota came out with 13 shots on goal. In the second period, they had 15 shots on goal, scored 3 goals. Nebraska scored their first goal. At the end of the game, it was 4-1, 38 shots by North Dakota, and only 22 by Nebraska Omaha. So that'll be interesting to watch. It'd be interesting to see if they get a big sweep here. That'd be great for North Dakota. Cornell and Princeton, had a chance to talk a little bit to my buddy Scotty Howard, the general manager at Cornell. Cornell just ran all over them. Unfortunately, the USCHO site did not have a box score for this game, but Cornell pulled it out 3-1. Cornell now travels today. They're en route right now to Connecticut to play Quinnipiac tonight. Ooh. So that should be interesting.
That might be interesting.
The big game today, the big game this weekend, of course, is St. Cloud State University, who is here in Denver playing against DU. Interesting game last night. You got a chance to watch a little bit of it?
A little bit, yeah. They had it on here. It was on the altitude here at Brothers. overtime. DU got beat. Good program got beat. So that's a big win for Seth St. Cloud.
Seth is excited. Everybody knows that Seth is a big St. Cloud State alumnus, and he was excited. The first thing he saw as soon as I came into the bar this morning, he was there greeting me. Hey, did you see the game? Did you see St. Cloud State won? I'm like, yes, I did. Yes, I did. Congratulations.
Yeah, overtime. Good game, though. Every time you looked up, it was back and forth. There wasn't any big 4-1 comebacks. It was just back and forth the entire way. I had a lot of the college football on, so I was kind of watching out of the corner of my eye. 2 other games. Minnesota beat Notre Dame 4-1, 2 big college hockey programs. And actually down here in Colorado College, my buddy has a season ticket holder down there. Colorado College 5-0 last night.
Who did they play?
I was looking at the box score. I wanted to say Anchorage, but we were kind of trying to get the show going on. I'd have to look at it.
But we'll be watching.
They got a new barn down there. He's got season tickets, and they're getting better and better every day.
Absolutely. Their endowment down there is ridiculous. Campus is beautiful, and their new facility, I guess, is off the charts.
Yes.
So we'll be going down there this year probably to watch a game and to maybe get in the press box and see if we can't do some coverage down there, just kind of like how we did with DU last year. We'll be doing a little bit of that this year as well. Let's just break down this a little bit. First period, St. Cloud State had 11 shots on goal. DU only had 6. Both of them ended up scoring a first period goal. The second period, St. Cloud State came out a little flat. They only had 5 shots on goal, where DU really kind of upped it and had 10 shots on goal with 1 goal scored. The third period, it was pretty even. St. Cloud State 7 shots on goal, DU 9 shots on goal. St. Cloud State pulled out 2 goals to 1 with DU, and the way it kind of played out down the stretch was Rizzo for DU scored in the third period with 2:11 left in the ball game. And then St. Cloud State, everybody thought, well, I guess this is where DU goes up and beats them. Well, with 1:17 left, Okabe for St. Cloud State scored a goal, tied it up. They go into overtime. They play the entire overtime period with 2:38 left. VT Madison for St. Cloud State scores a goal, and there you got it, a victory for St. Cloud State. A big win.
A huge win. It'll be interesting. My brother played college hockey.
Where did he play?
He was at Oswego State.
Oswego State.
And again,
the windiest place on the planet.
Yeah, the best weather in the world, I hear. He got off the, so if you ever taken the train at the airport, it got to take you to the main terminal. They always have somebody on there, usually an athlete, a mayor, governor, or something like that. Well, he was, I guess the new thing is the hockey city capital or hockey state capital.
Hockey
we all know the state
Central.
Hockey Central, that's what they say, I think. So we all know the state of hockey is up north. It's not down here. But DU winning, we'll see how if they can take the reins back.
Okay, in their defense, DU wins the the NCAA championship. The Avalanche win the Stanley Cup. We had a high school team, Denver East, that won the national high school. And then we had also a club team that won nationally.
Yeah.
So we have 4 national champions in 2022. They're calling Colorado, Denver, Hockey Town, USA. Detroit people don't agree. Minnesota people don't agree. Okay, Minnesota, out of their 6 Division I hockey programs, all 6 are ranked in the top 20.
Yeah.
So to me, that is Hockey State USA.
Well, my buddy is a Minnesota grad, Gopher grad. It's the state of hockey up there. And the winning may be going on down here, but up there it's still the deal. He asked me to come out for the high school state hockey championships, which they'll play at, usually they play at the Minnesota Wild, the XL Arena.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much almost a sellout for high school hockey at a professional hockey thing. So if we can get crowds like that, but the winning is right, so we'll see how the battle goes. TBD, the year's going to go on. Hockey's getting going in the NHL, and we're getting a little closer in high school and college.
That's right. If you drive around Denver and you see those things, Hockey Town USA, just kind of smile. It's tongue-in-cheek.
A lot of Avs shirts out here these days. The Broncos not doing so well, so the Avs shirts are in full throttle out here.
Well, you're going to see some Nuggets shirts, I think, towards the end of this season. We're going to be doing some coverage of the NBA. A lot of people are picking the Nuggets out of the West, which could be very, very interesting. because I think the West is a lot stronger this year in the NBA than the East. So, excellent. Well, because we are a little short on time, let's just kind of go through a couple of the featured NFL games, and I want to hear kind of what your betting philosophy is. We'll start off with the Vikings versus the Commanders. Vikings 6-1, Commanders 4-4. Remember, Minnesota has won 5 in a row. I'm telling you, they're playing extremely well. What are your feelings on the betting line?
Defense has been playing well. They stayed healthy this year, so they've been a little better. -3 on the road are the Vikings. Soft lean on the Vikings. It's one of my few favorites I'm actually taking this week. The Commanders, I still don't think are a very good team. The quarterback play has gotten better since Heineke's been there. I will take a soft lean for Seth and the Vikes. That will not be one of my main games for this week, though.
What's the line on the game? Do you have?
It was -3 when I came when I did my notes yesterday.
-3. So that means Vikings are favored by 3.
They are road favorite. Road favorites in the NFL. Yeah, there's a couple of them this week, but I like most of the underdogs this week, to be honest with you. That's one of the few favorites I do like.
We're going to have you go down through your underdog pits and who you'll pick right here at the end. Let's get through this as fast as we can here. Bills versus Jets, 6-1 Bills, 5-3 Jets, playing at the Jets. Big game, you know that the Jets have 3 first-round draft picks to turn around their season. What are your feelings on this game as far as the line and the betting?
Trap game. I think the Jets fans are waiting for the Bill fans to come down. I think it's a trap game. I do think the Bills will win. They're very talented. I do not think the quarterback play could have gotten any worse. There was one of the worst turnovers that poor kid has had since he's come out of BYU to be a Jet.
Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson is 12 and I think it was 12 and a half. And oh no, I had it at. Please hold. Yeah, it went down a half a point since I had done my notes, and I just think when you get those big double-digit odds in the NFL and you're going on the road, I think the Jets fans will be feisty. They're getting better and better every day.
So what is the line then? Is it the Bills plus what, or Bills minus what?
The Bills, they opened up around 12 and a half or 13.
Wow.
And I think you're seeing it in most places. When I wrote my notes down, 11 and a half. So it's come down a half or a full point depending where you're looking at.
I think with the Jets playing home, the Jets are going to cover. I don't think the Jets win the ball game though.
Yeah, I think that would be a tall task, but I do like to cover play there.
Okay. Seahawks 5-3 at the Cardinals 3-5. What are your feelings, real quick?
Seahawks, they're +2. They're
all right. We're back. All right, folks. We had some technical difficulty. I'm going to have to do some cutting and pasting and editing. But we're going to start with the part 2 of the November 5th show, Dr. Jimbo Love Show, featuring Seth Matthew, with Patrick sitting in for Seth Matthew.
Seth Matthew today.
No Seth Matthew so far. It looks like he's not going to be able to make it up, folks. All right, so we were talking a little bit about the Cardinals versus the Seahawks. The Seahawks are traveling to Arizona, and Patrick was talking a little bit about what his line is. What was it, 2.5 points?
Cardinals are favored by 2 points.
2 points, okay. Excellent. Well, we're going to move on to the fourth and last featured NFL game of this week, and that's the Titans at the Chiefs. Both teams are 5-2. Must stop Derrick Henry for Kansas City to be successful.
You got
to stop Derrick Henry. And, you got to see what happens with the Chiefs offense and Mahomes. What are your lines on this game?
12 and a half. Big favorites at home on Sunday Night Football.
I think that's too big.
I think it's way too big.
I really do.
One of our good friends is diehard Chiefs fan. He's been to a game. He'll be going to the Bronco game in town. Wasn't very happy when I told him this. They're going to do everything they can to stop him. I don't think Henry will have 200-plus yards like he did last week. I hope he does because he's on my fantasy team. But give me plus 12 and a half for the Titans. Give me the Chiefs to win it.
Okay. And I'm going to say the exact same thing. I really don't think that the Chiefs cover, but I do think the Chiefs do win overall because they are at home in Arrowhead Stadium. All right, Breeders' Cup. Again, we talked a little bit about this at the beginning. The cool thing about the Breeders' Cup, and I didn't know this because I asked Patrick this yesterday, but it is basically the Super Bowl, as Patrick said, in horse racing. It attracts competition from around the world. 6 different continents are represented, 16 different countries crowning a true world championship in 14 divisions.
Yeah, that's the big thing, are the divisions.
And the divisions, so tell us a little bit about what they mean by divisions. Is that different length races, different surfaces? Is that what it's talking about?
All the above. So you'll have short races that are, we call them sprinters. They're short, for short races, 5.5, 6.5 furlongs. We have all the age categories. So yesterday the juveniles race. Juveniles are 2-year-olds. So these are going to be the next Kentucky Derby horses you'll see next year. We had a good race yesterday with 2 of the horses you'll for sure see in the Kentucky Derby next year, barring any setbacks or injuries to the actual horse. But it goes all the way through today. We got it on over here. We're at Keelan, race 6, 2 minutes to a post. And there's different surfaces. So you have dirt, you have grass. The Europeans and a lot of the foreign horses that will ship in, these horses ship from everywhere. One of the first races today, a horse shipped in from Japan. They paid $200,000 just to have the horse shipped in to win the race today.
No kidding.
Did not win the race, but that's a part of the game.
Yeah.
And it caps off with the Breeders' Cup Classic, which is, I believe, still $5 million. It's usually the head of the card. It'll be the last race to go today. It's headlined by Flightline, 3 to 5 on the morning line, which means that if you bet $10, you would actually only make 6 back. That's how overwhelming favorite it was. They actually showed Flightline's workout the other day in the morning. The sun wasn't even up, and the amount of people out there for that horse's workout was something incredible to see. Just the crowd, just for a horse's workout, kind of give you an idea how good the horse is. But there'll be a few more today. They had to start a little bit early because they're on the East Coast. So 4 years previous, they did it on the West Coast. They move it. Since I've been betting it, I don't think I remember it being out of the United States. So a lot of the overseas jockeys as well as trainers and horses will ship in. They'll fly their horses over, get them acclimated to the environment and the culture, and it's the best of the best. All ages, divisions, sizes, shapes, colors, they put it all in a 2-day event because it's too big for one. Yesterday the 2-year-olds ran, today will be the 3-year-olds and upwards in all different categories.
Excellent. Hey, I think that's a great summation. So remember to come down here to the Brothers Bar and Grill, the shops in Northfield. We'll have a TV that's dedicated to the Breeders' Cup. You'll see Patrick and I will be sitting right over by it at the end of the bar. So come on down if you want to watch some great horse racing. As Patrick said earlier, it will be covered by NBC Sports or USA.
It'll be on NBC after they switch over from USA. Currently it's on USA, or if you have TVG, which is now actually owned by FanDuel. FanDuel TV is where we have on in the upper right corner.
Yep.
When we get down there, we'll have them switch over to USA. You'll get the local coverage from those guys down there. Did you want to do any of the NFL picks real quick? Go through them fast?
Yeah, let's do that really fastly.
Chargers, Falcons. Chargers -3 on the road. Who you got?
I have Chargers.
I'm going to take Falcons +3 at home. Dolphins -4.5 at the Bears. Bears at home, underdogs. Who you got?
Dolphins.
Dolphins seems too easy at 4.5. This is usually in the NFL where you go the opposite way. Our good buddy's a Bear fan. I'm going to take the Dolphins -4.5. It's not good times over there.
My picks are all going to be money line picks.
Okay.
Okay.
Panthers at Bengals. Bengals coming off a loss, -7.5 at home. Bengals.
Bengals are going to come back strong.
I'm going to take the Panthers +7. I think the Bengals still probably win the game. Packers on the road at Lions. They are favored 3.5. Lions are at home as an underdog.
I will take Packers.
I'm going to take the Lions at home +3.5 as an underdog. I like a lot of underdogs this week. Raiders on the road at Jacksonville against the Jags. Raiders are -2-0. Both teams 2 and 6. Raiders on the road is a favorite, -2.
I'm taking Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I'm going with the Jags. I watched them against my beloved Giants. They can run the ball, dude. The spread option, not the spread option, the run option there, and give me Jags. Colts, Pats. Pats are -6 at home. Colts on the road as underdogs.
Pats.
I'm going to take the Pats too. 6 is a lot. I don't like it, but I think they do cover this. We talked about Bills and Jets. I'm taking the Jets at home +11.5 last I saw. Who you got?
I'm going to take the Bills in the money line pick, but I think the Jets will cover.
Yep. And then we talked about Vikings, Commanders earlier. Soft lean -3 for the Vikes. Who you got?
I've got the Vikings.
Okay, Seahawks, Cardinals. I like the Seahawks +2. Cardinals -2 at home. Who you got?
This was a tough one for me. I'm going to go with the Cardinals.
Okay, yeah. Bye week. I think they're coming off a bye. I'm not really sure on that one. Rams, Bucks. This is my worst play. I don't like either team in either game, but the Bucks Our -3 at home with Brady. Rams are on the road. Who you got?
I'm going with the Rams.
I'm taking the Rams +3. They're not good times over there in the Brady.
Tom Brady's head's not right yet.
Yep. We did Titans and Chiefs. We're both going with the underdogs. I think Chiefs to win, both taking the underdog. And the Monday night game of the week is Ravens -2.5 on the road in New Orleans. Tough place to play, especially on Monday night. -2.5 Ravens. Who you got?
Going with Ravens.
I'm going to go with Ravens too. I think that they both put up a few points, but I think the Ravens figure it out. So
very good.
That was the fastest, what do they call
That's
it?
really
The fastest
quick.
60 or whatever?
Yeah.
That was our fastest 60.
Right on.
Sorry about the technical difficulties. Nice to meet y'all and hope to see y'all again.
Oh, we're not done just yet.
Oh.
We got one last
Oh.
thing we got to do here. And what we're going to talk about is our women's
Perfect.
section. And we're talking about some high school girls that have done some wonderful things just up the road here in both Niawat and then just down the road a little bit in Valor Christian. So these are the cross-country results, and we have Valor Christian has a young lady by the name of Brooke Wilson that set a record, and she ran the fastest 5K race in Colorado State history for girls scholastic level. And she ended up winning the 5A race, the state championship, at 16 minutes, 59 seconds, and 17 ticks
For a 5K?
for a 5K.
Takes me about 36 minutes to do it these days.
So I'll just read a little bit about this. Valor Christian's Brooke Wilson isn't quite feeling like a state cross-country champion, let alone a 5A record setter when she was running the race. She goes, I was telling myself, you just got to be the grittiest runner out there, said the senior, who was the runner-up last year in the state championship. 2 miles into the grueling race, and it was the race was held down in Colorado Springs. She was shoulder to shoulder with Emma Stutzman. Now, Emma Stutzman hadn't lost a race or an invitational for the entire season. So she was up against probably the premier runner in the state and ended up in the last 800 meters pulling it out and beating her by almost 27 seconds. So really good job, excellent job for Brooke Wilson. We also want to but also recognize Niawat. Niawat won the 4A championship. They had 6 girls in the top 10 in the state. Now that is really hard to beat in cross country. Remember, cross country is scored basically by the place that you finish. So the lowest score wins. You know, and when you have a grouping of 6 ladies or 6 girls that are in the top 10, it's really hard to beat them. Matter of fact, I don't think anybody in the 5A grouping could beat these girls. I think you've got Niawat, who is probably the best girls cross country team in the state. So congratulations, women. We want to tell you that we're watching you. Remember, come to the Dr. Jimbo Love Show featuring Seth Matthew. We always cover women's athletics, even if it's just a snippet, but women tell other women out there because we would love for you to listen to us.
And that article was by the Denver Post.
Absolutely.
So
Denver
thanks
Post.
to the Denver Post for that article,
Yes.
helping us out with keeping up with the high school sports around here, ladies high school sports.
Absolutely.
Well, nice to do the first show with you. Nice to meet everybody.
Hey, this is Patrick's debut, his broadcasting debut. So Pat, we will have him back many more times, hopefully. It's tough because he does fly quite a bit for his job, so he's not always in town, just like Seth. But yeah, you did a great job today.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. And
Remember, if you want to meet Patrick face to face, come on down today to Brothers Bar and Grill at the Shops in Northfield. Remember, we will be here all day long. Georgia-Tennessee game is coming up here pretty soon. I believe it's a 1:30 kickoff, so we will be here watching that. Folks, also too, if you're looking for evergreen trees, go to Evergreen Farms out of Ithaca, New York. My friend Scotty Howard will hook you up. He can do trees anywhere from 10 to 12 footers all the way up to 35 footers. He can ship them anywhere in the country. You can reach him at 607-227-3500, and Scotty will take good care of you. He digs trees. They'll be digging till Thanksgiving, and if you don't get anything before Thanksgiving, you're going to have to wait till their digging season starts, which is usually the first week in April. So, folks, we want to thank you for tuning in. We want to thank the LinkedIn crowd for all your likes, and also the Getter crowd, Rumble crowd. I'm not getting a whole lot on Facebook, but I think I'm being shadow banned. I'm not sure. Who knows with Facebook? But be watching on Twitter. Twitter is opening up now. Again, that was a medium that was kind of shut out to us earlier. Folks, get out there, get your side hustle. And what do we always say every single week? Get out there and earn it. All right, folks, thank you so much. Patrick, anything you want to say in a parting shot?
Good luck at the Breeders today. May all your bets be winners, and we'll see how we do. We'll check with you guys hopefully next week and see how our fastest 60 seconds there panned out.
It's panned out. Excellent. All
Bye,
right,
guys.
thank you very much.